Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Tonight, we're turning our attention to something small, something round and bright, resting quietly on the edge of a leaf. A ladybug. It is easy to think of it simply as a garden visitor. A small red shell with black spots moving slowly across green stems. Something children let crawl across their hands. Something that feels harmless and familiar. But the first quiet truth about a ladybug is this. It is not truly a bug at all. In biology, the word bug has a specific meaning. True bugs belong to a group called Hemiptera. Ladybugs do not belong there. They are beetles, and beetles make up the largest group of insects on Earth. There are more than 400,000 known beetle species. That means that nearly 1 out of every 4 known animal species is a beetle. The small red dome resting on a leaf is connected to one of the most successful life forms on the planet. You can picture it there now. The curved shell catching a bit of light. The black spots placed carefully against the red surface. Beneath that shell are hard wing covers called elytra. They protect a softer body underneath. The shape is smooth and rounded, almost like a polished bead. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe. And if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. The quiet continues here, just as it is. That curved shape is not only beautiful, it is practical. The hard shell protects delicate wings folded beneath it. The compact body reduces exposed edges. Even the bright color serves a purpose, though we will come back to that later. For now, it is enough to notice how complete it seems. A simple design, resting on a leaf, connected to a vast network of living forms across forests, fields, and gardens all over the world. Ladybugs are found on every continent except Antarctica. They live in meadows, farms, city parks, and backyard gardens. Wherever small plant-eating insects gather, ladybugs are likely nearby. Because ladybugs are hunters. An adult ladybug can eat up to 50 aphids in a single day. Aphids are tiny insects that feed on plant sap. They gather along stems and leaves, often in clusters. Left alone, they can weaken or even kill plants. A single ladybug moving slowly across a stem can quietly clear dozens of them. Over the course of its life, one ladybug may eat thousands of aphids. Entire gardens benefit from this small appetite. You might picture the scene now. A thin green stem, pale aphids clustered along its length, the red dome advancing steadily, almost gently. No rush, no noise, just quiet balance being restored. And yet the red dome we imagine is only one version. Ladybugs are not all red. Some are orange, some are yellow, some are black with red spots. A few are even pink or cream-colored. Some species have many spots. Some have only 2. Some have none at all. The spots do not tell us how old the ladybug is. That is a common childhood belief, but it is not true. The number of spots usually helps identify the species instead. A 7-spot lady beetle will always have 7 spots. It does not gain a new one each year. The shell carries identity, not age. And beneath that shell, inside the small rounded body, there are other quiet defenses. When threatened, a ladybug can release a yellow fluid from the joints in its legs. This fluid is called hemolymph. It contains bitter compounds that taste unpleasant to predators. To a bird, the bright color and bitter taste send a clear message. Leave this one alone. From the outside, it appears soft and gentle. From the inside, it is structured, protected, and precise. So when you picture that small red shape resting on a leaf tonight, you are not seeing something simple. You are seeing a beetle, a hunter, a traveler across continents, a member of one of the largest groups of insects on Earth, all contained within a body smaller than a coin. The small red dome we were just noticing does not move quickly. It does not chase in bursts or leap from leaf to leaf. Instead, it walks, one careful step at a time, across the thin green stem. Beneath its curved shell, 6 small legs grip the surface. At the end of each leg are tiny claws that help it hold onto leaves and stems. Even when the leaf shifts in a light breeze, the ladybug remains steady. The world may sway gently around it, but its feet keep contact. As it walks, it searches. Ladybugs are predators, though the word sounds larger than the body itself. Their main prey are aphids. Aphids are small, soft-bodied insects that gather in clusters along new plant growth. They pierce stems and leaves to drink sap, the nutrient-rich fluid inside plants. In large numbers, aphids can weaken a plant, causing leaves to curl or yellow. A ladybug moving slowly across a stem may encounter a cluster of these pale insects. It does not rush. It simply pauses, lowers its head, and begins to feed. An adult ladybug can eat up to 50 aphids in a single day. Some species may eat even more when food is plentiful. Over the span of a year, one ladybug may consume thousands of plant pests. The effect is quiet, but steady. A garden that might otherwise struggle remains balanced. You can picture the scale of it. The thin green stem rising upward. Aphids gathered like tiny beads along its length. And then the rounded red shell advancing, step by step, clearing the stem without sound. This is one reason ladybugs are often welcomed by farmers and gardeners. They act as natural pest control. Instead of chemicals, the balance comes from appetite. Instead of spray drifting through the air, there is a small beetle walking carefully along a leaf. Ladybugs do not only eat aphids. Some species also feed on mites, whiteflies, and other soft-bodied insects. A few even eat pollen or nectar when prey is scarce. But aphids remain their most common meal. Their mouths are designed for this work. Ladybugs have chewing mouthparts, strong enough to grasp and break down small insects. When viewed closely, the mouthparts move in small, deliberate motions. There is no violence in the movement, only function. Because they feed so heavily on aphids, ladybugs often lay their eggs near aphid colonies. This increases the chance that their young will have food waiting for them. The decision is simple and efficient. Place the next generation where nourishment already exists. The relationship between ladybugs and aphids is part of a larger pattern. In nature, populations rise and fall. When aphid numbers increase, ladybug numbers often follow. As ladybugs feed, aphid numbers decline. The system adjusts itself. It is easy to overlook this quiet exchange. From a distance, a garden appears still. Leaves move in the breeze. Light shifts across petals. But along each stem, small interactions are taking place. Predators and prey, each part of the same living web. Even the bright color of the ladybug plays a role in this hunting life. Red and black stand out against green leaves. This visibility might seem risky, yet for a ladybug, being seen is part of its strategy. The color signals to birds that it tastes unpleasant. Predators learn to avoid it. That means the ladybug can move openly during the day, searching for food without hiding in shadow. So the small hunter does not rely on speed or stealth. It relies on protection and persistence. As you imagine it now, walking across a leaf, you might notice how slow everything feels. The careful steps, the slight pause before feeding, the steady rhythm of movement. There is no rush in its design. And yet, through that unhurried motion, entire plant systems remain intact. A body no larger than a fingernail helps shape the health of fields and gardens across the world. It is a reminder that impact does not require size. It requires consistency. The ladybug continues forward, one step at a time, following scent and instinct along the green stem, restoring balance in ways that are rarely noticed. Small movements, quiet appetite, gentle correction, and the leaf beneath it remains steady. The red shell we often picture is only one version of the story. If you were to look closely at ladybugs across different fields and forests, the familiar image would begin to widen. The bright red dome with neat black spots is common, but it is not universal. In fact, ladybugs come in a wide range of colors and patterns. Some are deep orange, some are soft yellow, a few are pale pink. Others are glossy black with small red spots, like tiny drops of paint against a dark surface. There are species with 2 spots, species with 7, species with more than 20, and some species have no spots at all. The color and pattern of a ladybug are not decorations. They are signals. In many animals, bright colors serve as warnings. This type of warning color is called aposematic coloration. It is a simple system. Bright, high-contrast colors tell predators that the animal may taste bad or be toxic. Over time, birds and other hunters learn to associate certain colors with unpleasant experiences. Red and black together form one of the strongest warning signals in nature. Against the green of a leaf or the pale bark of a tree, that contrast is clear. It is not meant to hide. It is meant to be seen. You might picture several ladybugs resting on the same plant. One bright red with bold black spots, another yellow with smaller markings, a darker one, nearly black, catching light differently as it moves. The leaf beneath them remains the same, but the shells vary like small polished stones. These differences are not random. They often help identify species. For example, the 7-spot lady beetle, common in many regions, always carries 7 spots. The 2-spot lady beetle carries 2. The pattern does not increase with age. A ladybug does not gain new spots each year. This is a common myth, one that many people learn as children. The idea feels comforting. Count the spots and count the years. But biology follows a different rule. The number of spots is set by species, not by time. Ladybugs belong to a family of beetles called Coccinellidae. Within this family, there are more than 6,000 known species worldwide. Each species has its own pattern, size, and slight variation in shape. Some are only a few millimeters long. Others are larger, closer to the size of a small coin. Even their surface texture can vary. Most appear smooth and glossy, as though polished. But under magnification, the shell shows fine structure. The red color does not appear instantly when a ladybug emerges from its pupal stage. At first, the shell is pale and soft. Over several hours, pigments develop and harden. The red deepens. The black spots become defined. The protective layer strengthens. You can imagine that slow change now. A newly emerged adult resting on a leaf, its shell still soft and light in color. Gradually, oxygen reacts with compounds in the outer layer. The pigments darken. The surface becomes firm. The transformation is subtle but steady. Color can also vary depending on temperature during development. In some species, cooler conditions can lead to darker markings. This helps absorb more heat from sunlight. Warmer conditions may produce lighter shells. Even the pattern can respond gently to the environment. So the red dome we hold in our mind is only one expression of a larger design. Across fields and forests, thousands of small beetles move quietly among leaves, each wearing its own signal. Some bright and bold, some darker and less familiar, all connected by shape and structure, yet varied in appearance. As you picture them resting on stems or walking slowly along bark, you might notice how the variety does not disturb the calm. It adds depth. The leaf remains green. The stem remains steady. The shells shift in color and pattern, but the movement is the same, unhurried, deliberate, quietly visible. Familiar shapes can hold surprising diversity, and the garden continues, filled with small variations we rarely pause to see. If you were to lift a ladybug gently onto your fingertip, the first instinct might be to count the spots. 1, 2, 3. It feels like a small ritual, something learned early. Many people are told that each black dot marks a year of the ladybug's life. A young beetle has fewer spots, an older one has more. The story is simple, and it travels easily from one childhood to the next. But the truth is quieter, and in some ways more interesting. The spots do not measure time. They measure identity. Each ladybug species carries its own pattern. The number of spots is determined by genetics long before the beetle ever emerges from its pupal shell. A 7-spot lady beetle will always have 7 spots. A 2-spot lady beetle will always have 2. A species with no spots at all will remain unmarked throughout its life. The pattern is not added slowly over months or years. It forms during development inside the pupa. When the adult ladybug first emerges, its shell is pale and soft. The red color is faint, almost creamy. The black spots are barely visible. Over the next several hours, pigments darken and harden. The final pattern appears as the shell strengthens. You can picture that slow reveal now. A newly emerged ladybug resting quietly, its body still soft. The outer layer, called the cuticle, reacts with air. Chemical compounds oxidize. The red deepens. The spots sharpen into place. The shell becomes firm enough to protect the delicate wings beneath it. The spots themselves are areas where pigment cells deposit darker compounds. These pigments often include melanin, the same broad group of compounds that darken hair or skin in many animals. In ladybugs, melanin helps define the high contrast pattern against the bright background. The contrast serves a purpose. As mentioned earlier, red and black together form a warning signal in nature. Predators learn that bold patterns often mean unpleasant taste. A bird that once tried to eat a bitter ladybug may remember the color and avoid similar patterns in the future. But even within one species, slight variation can occur. Some individuals may have slightly larger spots. Others may have smaller ones. Temperature during development can influence how dark the markings become. Cooler conditions can produce darker pigmentation. This helps absorb more sunlight, warming the body more efficiently. Warmer conditions may lead to lighter markings. You might imagine two ladybugs resting side by side on the same leaf. Both 7-spot beetles. Both bright red. Yet one slightly darker than the other, its black spots broader. These small differences do not change the species. They simply reflect subtle shifts during growth. Spot placement follows a general symmetry. Most species have patterns that mirror from one side of the shell to the other. This symmetry arises because the elytra, the hard wing covers, develop in paired halves. Each half carries part of the pattern. When closed, the halves meet along the center line, forming a complete design. The shell itself curves smoothly over the body. The spots follow that curve, adapting to its rounded shape. From above, the ladybug looks like a polished bead marked with ink. From the side, the pattern bends with the dome. Counting spots may not reveal age, but it can reveal connection. The pattern links the beetle to thousands of others in its species, across fields and gardens and seasons. It is a shared design, repeated generation after generation. Time, instead, moves differently for a ladybug. Its lifespan is usually about 1 year. It passes through egg, larva, pupa, and adult within that cycle. The shell it carries as an adult remains the same throughout that time. No new spots appear. No old ones fade away. So when you imagine lifting one gently and counting the dots, you are not measuring its years. You are reading its identity. The leaf beneath it may sway. The light may shift across its curved back. But the pattern remains steady, formed once and carried quietly through the seasons. The shell carries identity, not age. And the small red dome continues its slow walk across the green stem, unchanged in its markings, steady in its design. The small dome of a ladybug may look soft from a distance. Its surface shines gently in the light, curved and smooth, almost like a bead resting on a leaf. But that curved surface is not soft at all. It is armor. The rounded shell is formed by two hardened forewings called elytra. In beetles, the elytra serve as protective covers. They shield the delicate flight wings and the softer abdomen beneath. When closed, the two halves meet in a straight line down the center of the back, forming a tight seal. You can picture that line now, dividing the red surface evenly into left and right. Beneath it, thin membranous wings remain folded, hidden and protected. The dome shape is not accidental. A curved surface distributes force more evenly than a flat one. When something presses against it, the pressure spreads across the arch rather than focusing in one spot. This makes the shell stronger than it might appear. If a bird pecks at a ladybug, the smooth curve can cause the beak to slide off rather than grip firmly. If the beetle falls from a plant, the rounded shape helps it land and roll rather than strike a sharp angle. The geometry of the body becomes part of its survival. Beneath the elytra, the body is much softer. The abdomen contains internal organs and muscles that would be vulnerable without protection. The exoskeleton, made primarily of a tough material called chitin, forms the outer layer of the body. Chitin is also found in the shells of crabs and the wings of butterflies. It is lightweight but durable. A ladybug's exoskeleton does not grow. Instead, during earlier life stages, the insect molts. It sheds its outer layer and forms a new, larger one. By the time it reaches adulthood, the shell is fixed in size. The bright red dome will not expand further. The legs and head can tuck inward when threatened. If disturbed, a ladybug may pull its legs close to its body and press itself against the surface. From above, it becomes a smooth, nearly featureless dome. With no limbs extended, there is little to grasp. Imagine it now resting on a leaf. A slight shadow passes overhead. Instantly, the legs draw in. The body lowers. The red surface remains still, as though it were part of the plant itself. The shell also helps prevent moisture loss. Insects do not have lungs like mammals. They breathe through small openings along the sides of their bodies, called spiracles. The hardened outer layer reduces water evaporation, which is especially important in dry or windy conditions. The smooth surface has another benefit. It makes cleaning easier. Dust or pollen grains slide away more readily from a curved shell than from a textured one. A ladybug may use its legs to groom itself, brushing lightly along the surface to remove debris. The protective design extends beyond the shell. The underside of the body is flatter, allowing the beetle to press against surfaces. The slight arch between top and bottom creates space for internal organs while maintaining a compact form. From above, the shape seems simple. From the side, it resembles a half-sphere. But inside that curved form is a system of muscles, nerves, and folded wings arranged with precision. The shell is strong, but it is not heavy. Flight requires lightness. The balance between protection and mobility is carefully maintained. Too thick, and the beetle would struggle to lift off. Too thin, and it would lose defense. Evolution has shaped the dome into a compromise between these needs. As you picture the ladybug now, you might notice how calm the shape feels. No sharp edges, no sudden angles, just a rounded surface resting quietly in place. That smooth curve is the result of millions of years of gradual refinement. Small changes preserved because they worked. Slight adjustments in thickness, angle, or curvature. Each one tested by the simple measure of survival. The red dome may look gentle. It may appear decorative. But beneath its shine lies structure, strength, and careful engineering. The leaf beneath it remains steady. The air moves softly, and the small armored shape rests, protected by the curve it carries everywhere it goes. When the small red dome rests quietly on a leaf, it can be easy to forget that it can fly. The shell appears sealed, smooth, and still. There are no visible wings extended outward, no feathers, no broad surfaces catching the air. Just the curved back, divided neatly down the center. But beneath those two hardened covers, something delicate waits. The red shell, the elytra, is not used for flying. Instead, it acts as a protective case. When a ladybug prepares to take off, the two halves of the shell slowly lift upward and outward. They hinge open like tiny doors, revealing a pair of thin, translucent wings folded tightly beneath. You can picture it now, the shell rising slightly, a faint shadow appearing underneath. Then, from within that small space, soft wings unfolding. These flight wings are much larger than they appear when hidden. They are folded in a precise pattern, almost like a piece of paper folded into narrow pleats. The folds allow a relatively large surface to fit inside a very small space. When extended, the wings stretch outward to a width wider than the body itself. The folding system is not random. Each crease forms along predictable lines in the wing membrane. Scientists who study insect flight have observed that beetle wings use a combination of flexible veins and elastic tension to fold and unfold efficiently. When the wings close, they tuck neatly back under the elytra without manual adjustment. The structure guides the motion. Once open, the thin wings begin to beat rapidly. Ladybugs typically beat their wings around 80 to 100 times per second. The movement is too fast to see clearly with the naked eye. To us, it appears as a faint blur. The body lifts slowly from the surface, not with sudden speed, but with steady effort. The legs release their grip. The air beneath the wings begins to carry the small form upward. Ladybugs are not built for long-distance migration in the way that some butterflies are. Their flights are usually short and purposeful, from one plant to another, from a leaf that has been cleared of aphids to one that still holds food. The lightweight body helps make this possible. Insects do not have heavy internal bones. Instead, their muscles attach to the inner surface of the exoskeleton. The flight muscles contract rapidly, changing the shape of the thorax and causing the wings to move. The power is generated through this quick compression and release. You might imagine the beetle rising gently above the leaf, hovering for a brief moment before drifting toward a nearby stem. The wings hum softly, though the sound is faint. The red shell remains lifted as long as the flight continues. When landing, the process reverses. The ladybug slows, lowers itself carefully onto a surface, and folds the wings back beneath the shell. The elytra close again, sealing the delicate membranes inside. The dome shape returns, smooth and complete. The ability to fold wings under hardened covers is one reason beetles have been so successful as a group. The elytra protect flight surfaces from damage while crawling through soil, leaves, or bark. Other flying insects must keep their wings exposed, but beetles can shield theirs between flights. This protection allows them to move through tight spaces without tearing delicate membranes. It also reduces water loss and physical wear. Over time, this design advantage has contributed to the enormous diversity of beetles across the planet. The transformation from still dome to airborne form happens quickly, but without urgency. A few seconds of preparation, a lift, a quiet glide. As you picture this now, the leaf remains steady beneath. The red shell opens, the hidden wings unfold. The small body rises into the air, carried by motion too fast to see clearly. Then it settles again, somewhere nearby, folding itself back into its compact shape grounded one moment, airborne the next, all contained within a body small enough to rest comfortably on the tip of a finger. Once the wings are fully extended and the body has lifted from the leaf, the air itself becomes part of the story. For a creature as small as a ladybug, air does not behave the way it does for larger animals. To us, air feels light and easy to move through. To a tiny beetle, air has weight and texture. It presses and pushes against the wings with every beat. Ladybugs fly within a world where the thickness of air matters. At their size, the physics of flight operates at a different scale. The rapid wing beats create small swirling currents that help generate lift. Each downstroke pushes air downward and backward. Each upstroke resets the position for the next pulse of movement. You can imagine the wings now, moving too fast to see clearly. The thin membranes bend slightly with each beat. Veins running through the wings provide structure while allowing flexibility. The movement is not rigid. It is elastic and responsive. A typical ladybug may beat its wings around 80 to 100 times per second. That rhythm keeps it suspended long enough to travel short distances. The flight is not built for speed or endurance. It is built for repositioning. From one stem to another, from a drying leaf to one filled with aphids, from a patch of sunlight to a patch of shade. Because ladybugs are small, wind plays a powerful role in their movement. A light breeze that barely shifts a leaf can redirect a ladybug mid-air. The beetle does not fight strong wind for long. Instead, it often waits for calmer air before flying. When conditions are still, flight becomes more controlled. The body tilts slightly forward. The legs extend backward, trailing beneath the abdomen. The red elytra remain lifted during flight, angled outward like small stabilizers. Even the body's weight is carefully balanced. Ladybugs are compact, with much of their mass centered near the thorax where the flight muscles are strongest. This central balance allows smoother control while airborne. You might picture the beetle lifting from a leaf in the late afternoon. The air is quiet. The wings blur. It drifts forward, hovering briefly before settling onto another plant. The movement is gentle and brief. The landing is deliberate. As the ladybug approaches a surface, it slows its wing beats. The legs extend downward. The claws at the tips of its feet reach for contact. Once the grip is secure, the wings fold back inward. The elytra close over them like protective doors. The entire sequence may last only a few seconds. But in that short time, the ladybug has crossed a gap that would otherwise require a long crawl. Flight also helps ladybugs disperse when food becomes scarce. If aphid populations drop in one area, ladybugs may fly outward in search of new colonies. This mobility allows them to track changes in plant growth across fields and gardens. At times, ladybugs can gather in large numbers and take to the air together. During certain seasons, especially in warmer months, they may disperse in small waves, each individual following its own path guided by scent and light. Even though their flights are short, the ability to rise above the leaf gives them perspective. From a slightly higher position, new feeding sites become visible. Sunlight reflects differently off stems and leaves. The landscape shifts subtly beneath them. The air beneath their wings is invisible to us, but it is active and textured for them. Each beat presses against it. Each glide depends on its resistance. When the beetle lands and folds itself once more into its rounded form, the air becomes quiet again. The wings are hidden, the shell smooth. From above, nothing suggests that the small red dome can lift itself into open space. Yet within seconds, it can leave one stem and reach another, carried by invisible currents shaped by rapid motion. The leaf sways gently. The red shape rests once more. Ground and air exchange places quietly in the life of a ladybug. And the garden continues, held together by movements that last only moments at a time. Not all ladybugs begin as small red domes. Long before the curved shell forms and the wings unfold, there is another shape entirely. A shape that does not look gentle or polished. A shape that might be overlooked if you did not know what you were seeing. Ladybug larvae look nothing like the adults they will become. Instead of round and smooth, the larval body is elongated. It has a segmented form, often dark grey or black, with small orange or yellow markings along its sides. Tiny spines or bumps may line its back. To many eyes, it resembles a miniature alligator or a small armored caterpillar. You can picture it now, stretched along a stem rather than perched like a bead. Its body arches slightly as it moves, gripping the plant with small legs spaced along its underside. The movement is purposeful, steady, and direct. The larval stage is one of growth and appetite. When a female ladybug lays her eggs, she often places them near a colony of aphids. The eggs are small, oval, and pale yellow or orange. They cluster together beneath a leaf or along a sheltered stem. Within a few days, depending on temperature, the eggs hatch. Out comes the larva. At this stage, the body is built for feeding. Larvae consume aphids in even greater numbers than adults do. A single larva may eat hundreds of aphids during its development. It grows quickly, shedding its outer skin several times in a process called molting. Because insects have rigid exoskeletons, they cannot stretch the way mammals do. Instead, as the larva grows, it splits and sheds its old outer layer, then expands into a new one. This happens multiple times before it reaches its full larval size. You might imagine the larva now, moving along a stem lined with aphids. Its head lowers, its mouthparts grasp and chew. There is no curved red shell yet, no bold warning colors, just a dark, elongated body focused on feeding. The larval stage can last 2 to 3 weeks, depending on warmth and food supply. During this time, the body stores energy. It builds tissues that will later transform into adult structures. Beneath the surface, imaginal discs begin to form. These are small clusters of cells that will eventually develop into wings, legs, and other adult features. But for now, the larva remains grounded. It does not fly. It crawls steadily from one feeding site to another. Because larvae lack the bright red and black warning pattern of adults, they rely more on camouflage and spines for protection. Their darker color helps them blend into bark and shadowed leaves. The small projections along their backs may make them less appealing to predators. From a distance, a larva may appear unremarkable. It does not shine. It does not catch light the way the adult shell does. Yet this stage is essential. Without it, there would be no dome, no wings, no red surface resting on a leaf. As the larva grows larger, its movements may slow slightly. Appetite remains steady, but the body prepares for the next transition. Eventually, the larva finds a stable surface, a leaf, a stem, a sheltered underside. It attaches itself and becomes still. The elongated body will soon transform into something entirely different. But before that change occurs, there is a quiet period of preparation. The larva has done its work. It has consumed what it needs. It has grown through several molts. The internal blueprint for the adult is ready. You can imagine the last moments of the larval stage now. The segmented body clinging gently to a stem. The garden air moving softly around it. The aphids nearby, unaware that one of their hunters is about to vanish from sight. The familiar red dome is not born fully formed. It is built slowly, beginning with this darker, unfamiliar shape. From spined larva to polished shell, from crawling hunter to folded wings waiting beneath armor. The leaf remains steady beneath it all, and change gathers quietly within a body no larger than a fingernail. After the final stretch of crawling and feeding, the larva finds a surface that feels secure. A leaf underside, a firm stem, a quiet patch of bark. Its movements slow. The body arches slightly and attaches itself at the tail end. Then it becomes still. This is the beginning of pupation. From the outside, the change appears simple. The elongated larval body contracts and forms a rounded casing around itself. The surface hardens. The spines and markings fade into a smoother shape. It does not look like the bright adult yet. It resembles a small, curved capsule fixed in place. You can picture it now, attached to a leaf, unmoving. The garden continues around it. Light shifts. Wind brushes past. Aphids crawl nearby. But the pupa remains steady. Inside, however, something remarkable is happening. Ladybugs undergo complete metamorphosis, a process known as holometabolism. This means that the larval body does not simply grow wings or change shape gradually. Instead, much of the internal structure reorganizes. Tissues break down and reform. Imaginal discs, which were present during the larval stage, begin expanding into adult organs. The transformation is guided by hormones, especially one called ecdysone. These chemical signals regulate the timing of change. They tell the body when to dissolve certain tissues and when to begin constructing new ones. The process follows a precise sequence, even though it remains invisible from the outside. Inside the pupal case, cells shift positions. Muscles reorganize. The simple larval eyes give way to the compound eyes of the adult. The flight wings form in folded layers. The red shell begins as a pale structure, not yet pigmented. If you imagine it now, the still outer surface holds quiet activity beneath. It may look inactive, but the entire architecture of the body is being redesigned. This stage usually lasts about a week, though temperature can affect timing. Warmer conditions may shorten the duration. Cooler air may slow it. Throughout this time, the pupa does not eat. It does not move. It relies entirely on the energy stored during its larval feeding stage. The surface of the pupa often displays muted colors. Some species show faint orange or black patches, even before emergence. These hints suggest the pattern that will soon appear. But the bright red of the adult shell is not fully visible yet. Then, one day, the casing splits. The adult ladybug emerges slowly. At first, its body looks soft and pale. The wings are crumpled. The shell appears light yellow or cream-colored. The legs grip the surface carefully while the new form steadies itself. Over the next several hours, the cuticle hardens, air flows over the surface. Pigments deepen. The red becomes vivid. The black spots sharpen into place. The wings dry and fold neatly beneath the elytra. You might picture the newly emerged adult now, resting quietly while its shell strengthens. It does not fly immediately. It waits. The transformation is complete, but the body needs time to solidify. This kind of metamorphosis separates insects like ladybugs from those that undergo gradual change. Grasshoppers, for example, resemble smaller versions of their adult form as they grow. Ladybugs do not. Their larval stage is entirely different from their adult stage. Each serves a distinct purpose. The larva is built for feeding and growth. The adult is built for reproduction and dispersal. By dividing life into separate forms, the species avoids competing with itself. Larvae and adults may feed on similar prey, but they occupy slightly different spaces and stages of time. From the outside, pupation appears as stillness, a quiet pause on the underside of a leaf. Yet that pause contains one of the most complex biological processes in the insect world. When you imagine the garden now, you might see not only the bright red adults walking across stems, but also small curved pupae attached beneath leaves. Hidden transitions taking place out of sight. The red dome that catches the eye began here, in stillness, in reorganization, in a sealed chamber no larger than a fingernail. And once the shell hardens and the wings fold into place, the small beetle resumes its slow movement across the green world. Stillness held the blueprint. Change completed the design. And the leaf beneath it remained steady through it all. When the adult ladybug has hardened and its red shell has deepened in color, it appears complete. The dome is smooth. The wings are folded safely beneath the elytra. The legs grip the surface with steady contact. From the outside, everything seems gentle. But within that small body, there is chemistry at work. Ladybugs do not have blood the way mammals do. Instead, they carry a fluid called hemolymph. Hemolymph moves through open spaces inside the body, bathing organs directly rather than flowing through closed vessels. It carries nutrients, hormones, and waste products. It also plays a role in defense. When threatened, a ladybug can perform a behavior known as reflex bleeding. If disturbed or lightly squeezed, small droplets of yellow fluid may appear at the joints of its legs. This is hemolymph being released intentionally. You can picture it now, the red dome resting on a leaf. A sudden shadow passing overhead. The legs draw inward slightly, and from the tiny joints near the base of each leg, a bead of yellow fluid forms. The fluid contains alkaloid compounds that taste bitter to many predators. For a bird that tries to swallow a ladybug, the flavor can be unpleasant enough to discourage future attempts. The experience teaches avoidance. Bright color paired with bitter taste becomes a memory. The yellow droplets may also carry a faint, sharp odor. Some people notice it when handling ladybugs indoors. The scent is not strong, but it is noticeable. It is another layer of deterrence. This defense does not harm most predators severely. It simply creates discomfort. The goal is not to injure, it is to warn. The bright red and black coloration supports this system. The visual signal appears before contact. The taste reinforces the lesson if contact occurs. Together, color and chemistry form a two-step defense. The hemolymph serves other roles as well. It helps maintain internal pressure, which assists with wing extension during flight. It transports nutrients absorbed from food. It carries immune cells that help fight infections from bacteria or fungi. Inside the body cavity, hemolymph surrounds organs directly. Insects do not rely on closed blood vessels the way humans do. Instead, the fluid moves as the body shifts and muscles contract. A structure called the dorsal vessel functions somewhat like a heart, helping circulate the hemolymph through the body cavity. The open system is efficient for a small organism. It requires less complex plumbing while still delivering nutrients and hormones where needed. You might imagine the interior now, beneath the curved shell. The thorax houses strong flight muscles. The abdomen contains digestive organs and reproductive structures. Hemolymph flows gently around these systems, carrying energy and signals from one region to another. The reflex bleeding behavior costs the ladybug some fluid, but it does not usually lose enough to cause harm. The droplets are small. After the threat passes, the insect remains still for a moment, legs tucked beneath the body, as if allowing the signal to settle. The defense is not used constantly. It is triggered by direct disturbance. Most of the time, the warning color alone is enough. Birds learn quickly. A bright red dome with bold black spots becomes something to avoid. This combination of chemistry and color has proven effective. Many predators ignore ladybugs after a single unpleasant experience. Over time, this reinforces the survival of individuals with strong coloration and effective chemical compounds. You can picture the small red shape resting once more on a green leaf. It appears calm and harmless. The shell shines softly in the light. The legs move slowly across the surface. Yet within that compact body is a system prepared to defend itself if needed. Not through speed, not through aggression, but through signal and chemistry. The leaf sways gently. The air moves lightly around the dome. Protection does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it appears as stillness paired with quiet warning. And the ladybug continues its slow walk, carrying both brightness and bitterness beneath its curved shell. As summer begins to cool and the air shifts slightly in tone, the pace of the garden changes. The stems feel firmer, the light softens, the aphid colonies thin. For a ladybug, this seasonal shift carries meaning. Ladybugs do not remain active through freezing winter temperatures. Their small bodies cannot withstand deep frost without preparation. Instead, they enter a state called diapause. Diapause is not sleep in the way mammals sleep. It is a form of suspended activity. Metabolism slows, movement decreases, reproduction pauses. The body conserves energy. You can picture a ladybug in late autumn now. The days are shorter. The warmth of sunlight does not last as long. The beetle moves less frequently. It feeds less. Instinct guides it toward shelter. Many ladybugs gather in groups as temperatures drop. They search for protected spaces, cracks in tree bark, crevices in rocks, spaces beneath fallen leaves. In natural landscapes, they may cluster inside hollow logs or beneath loose stones. In towns and cities, they sometimes choose human structures. Sun-facing walls, window frames, and small gaps in siding can hold warmth slightly longer than open air. These spaces act as microclimates, retaining heat collected during the day. You might imagine dozens of small red domes gathered together inside a narrow crevice. They press close, legs tucked beneath their bodies. The bright shells rest side by side, forming a quiet cluster. This grouping is not random. When ladybugs cluster, they reduce individual exposure to cold air. The outer beetles absorb more of the temperature drop, while those inside remain slightly warmer. The group as a whole stabilizes itself. Inside their bodies, metabolic rate decreases. The heart-like dorsal vessel continues to circulate hemolymph, but more slowly. Energy stored from summer feeding sustains them through the colder months. They do not eat during diapause. Instead, they rely on reserves accumulated earlier in life. The shell remains hard and protective. The wings stay folded beneath the elytra. Movement is minimal. If disturbed on a warm winter day, a ladybug may stir briefly, but it soon returns to stillness. Temperature plays a critical role in timing. As daylight shortens and temperatures fall, hormonal changes signal the body to prepare for diapause. This internal calendar aligns the beetle with seasonal cycles. You might imagine the cluster resting through the winter. Outside, snow may cover the ground. Frost may line the edges of leaves. But within the sheltered space, the group remains intact, waiting. When spring warmth returns, something shifts again. Rising temperatures and longer daylight hours signal the end of diapause. Metabolism increases. The beetles begin to move. The cluster slowly disperses. Each ladybug emerges from shelter and returns to feeding. Aphid populations begin rising again with new plant growth. The cycle continues. This pattern of gathering and waiting is part of a larger rhythm shared by many insects. For a small body, surviving winter requires careful timing and preparation. Diapause allows the species to endure periods when food is scarce and temperatures are low. The image of dozens of ladybugs resting together may feel unexpected. We often picture them alone on leaves. But in colder months, their survival depends on proximity. You can see them now, pressed gently against one another inside a quiet crevice. No movement, no sound. Just curved shells forming a compact mosaic of red and black. The air outside may be sharp and cold. Inside the shelter, the cluster holds steady. This stillness is not weakness, it is strategy. By slowing their bodies and gathering together, ladybugs pass through seasons that might otherwise be too harsh. When spring returns, the small red shapes reappear in gardens and fields. They resume their slow walk across stems, feeding and reproducing once more. The leaf beneath them in summer does not show the memory of winter. But inside each beetle, the rhythm remains. Activity, gathering, waiting, emerging. A small body following the quiet clock of light and temperature. And when the air cools again, the clusters will form once more, tucked safely into narrow spaces, carrying the warmth of summer forward through the cold. As autumn begins to settle in, the air changes in ways that are subtle but steady. The sun sits lower in the sky. The warmth it gives does not last as long into the evening. Leaves begin to dry at the edges. The pace of insects slows. For ladybugs, this shift in light and temperature brings movement of a different kind. You may have seen it before without thinking much about it. A pale wall facing the sun, a window frame warmed by afternoon light, and scattered across the surface, small red shapes gathered together. In autumn, ladybugs are often drawn to sun-facing walls. The reason is simple. Surfaces that face the sun absorb heat throughout the day. Even when the surrounding air begins to cool, those walls may remain slightly warmer. The difference might be only a few degrees, but for a small insect, that difference matters. You can picture it now. A smooth, pale wall holding the day's warmth. The sunlight resting across it. And on that surface, clusters of ladybugs slowly moving, searching for narrow gaps and cracks. These walls create what is known as a microclimate. A microclimate is a small area where conditions differ from the broader environment. Temperature, humidity, and wind exposure can vary within just a few feet. For a ladybug preparing for winter, finding a warmer microclimate increases the chance of survival. The beetles are not gathering because they want to enter homes or buildings in the way we might think of invasion. They are following instinct. In nature, they would seek out rock crevices, hollow logs, or thick bark. In towns and cities, walls and sidings sometimes mimic those natural shelters. When dozens or even hundreds of ladybugs appear on a house in autumn, it can seem sudden. One day, the wall is empty. The next, it is dotted with red. But this gathering is seasonal. It is part of their preparation for diapause. The warmth of the wall helps them remain active a little longer during cooler days. It allows them to search for small openings that lead to protected spaces. Tiny cracks near window frames or under siding can provide shelter from wind and frost. You might imagine a group of ladybugs moving slowly across the surface of a sunlit building. The shell of each one catches light differently. Some pause near small gaps. Others climb upward, following the edge of a frame. Their feet grip the smooth surface carefully. Their bodies remain low and steady. There is no urgency in their movement, only persistence. Inside these narrow spaces, temperatures fluctuate less dramatically than in open air. Even a small buffer against freezing can mean the difference between survival and loss. Because ladybugs gather in numbers, the sight can sometimes cause concern. They may enter indoor spaces if cracks allow it. Once inside, they do not feed on furniture or fabric. They are not searching for human food. They are simply seeking a quiet, protected place to rest through winter. Most will remain inactive until spring warmth returns. If disturbed, they may crawl slowly toward light, trying to find an exit back outdoors. The bright red and black shells stand out sharply against pale walls. Against brick or light paint, the contrast is clear. The color that once warned birds in the garden now marks their presence on buildings. You can see them resting in the warmth of late afternoon. The wall holds sunlight. The beetles absorb that heat through their shells. The air around them cools gradually as evening approaches. Instinct meets architecture. Human structures unintentionally provide surfaces that store and radiate warmth, similar to rocks or tree trunks. The beetles respond in the same way they would in a forest. They gather where the temperature remains slightly higher. As night falls, the wall cools. The movement slows. The ladybugs tuck themselves into narrow spaces and become still. Warmth draws quiet gathering. The pale surface that seemed empty in summer becomes, for a brief time, a resting place for dozens of small red domes. Not an invasion, not a threat, just instinct following heat, and heat lingering on a wall as autumn settles in. The walls of a single house can hold a cluster of ladybugs for a season. A field can hold thousands. A forest edge can shelter many more. But some ladybugs have traveled far beyond the gardens where they first evolved. If you widen the view from one backyard to an entire continent, you begin to see movement shaped not only by wings, but by ships, trucks, and trade routes. One of the most well-known examples is the Asian lady beetle, scientifically called Harmonia axyridis. Native to parts of Eastern Asia, this species was intentionally introduced to other regions, including North America and Europe, during the 20th century. The goal was agricultural. Farmers and researchers hoped the beetle would help control aphid populations in crops. On paper, the plan made sense. The Asian lady beetle feeds heavily on plant pests. It reproduces efficiently. It survives in a range of climates. At first, its presence was welcomed. You might picture crates of produce crossing oceans, cargo ships carrying goods from port to port. Inside some shipments, unnoticed, small beetles resting among leaves or fruit. Some were introduced deliberately, others may have arrived accidentally through global trade. Over time, populations established themselves far from their original range. The Asian lady beetle is similar in shape to many native species. It carries the same curved shell, the same folded wings beneath hardened elytra, but its coloration can vary widely. Some individuals are bright orange with many spots. Others are pale with few markings. A distinguishing feature is often a small white M or W-shaped marking on the area behind the head, though even this can vary. In new environments, this species adapted quickly. It fed on aphids in orchards and fields. It survived winter in sheltered spaces. It reproduced successfully. But when a new species enters an established ecosystem, balance can shift. Native ladybug species may compete for the same food sources. The Asian lady beetle often has a high reproductive rate and strong survival during winter. In some areas, populations of native ladybugs declined as the introduced species increased. You can imagine a field where multiple ladybug species once shared space, each moving along stems, each feeding quietly. Over time, one species becomes more common, the others become harder to find. This change does not happen overnight. It unfolds gradually, season by season. In addition to competition, the Asian lady beetle has a tendency to gather in very large numbers during autumn. When seeking winter shelter, thousands may cluster on buildings or inside wall spaces. Their presence becomes more noticeable than that of smaller native populations. Yet even here, the pattern is driven by instinct. The beetles follow warmth. They respond to light and temperature just as other species do. The difference lies in their numbers and adaptability. Global travel has connected ecosystems that were once separate. Insects, seeds, and microorganisms now move across oceans more easily than in the past. Some arrivals blend quietly into their new surroundings. Others alter local systems in subtle ways. The ladybug, with its small wings, may travel only short distances on its own, but human movement has carried it far beyond what those wings alone could achieve. You might picture a map now. One continent linked to another by shipping lanes. Fields connected through trade. A small beetle riding unseen within cargo, eventually stepping onto a new stem in a distant land. Once there, it feeds. It reproduces. It follows the same seasonal rhythms. Not every introduction leads to imbalance. Some remain minor additions to local ecosystems. But in the case of the Asian lady beetle, its success has reshaped the distribution of species in several regions. Still, the beetle itself follows simple rules. Seek food, seek warmth, reproduce when conditions allow. From the viewpoint of the insect, there is no awareness of continence or competition. Only stems and leaves, light and shelter. Small wings cross large distances, sometimes carried by forces far beyond their control. And in fields thousands of miles from where its ancestors first lived, the red dome rests once more on a green leaf, following the same quiet instincts that shaped it long ago. When a ladybug rests on the underside of a leaf, something subtle is happening beneath its small body. The leaf may hang downward, angled toward the ground. Its surface may feel smooth, even slightly slick with morning dew. And yet the ladybug remains in place unmoving, as though gravity has softened around it. This steadiness comes from the structure of its feet. A ladybug has 6 legs, each ending in small segmented parts called tarsi. At the very tip of each tarsus are tiny claws. These claws are curved and sharp enough to hook into microscopic irregularities in surfaces. Even a leaf that appears smooth has ridges and veins that are invisible from a distance. You can picture it now. The beetle hanging beneath a leaf, its curved back facing downward, its legs extended upward. The claws catch along the faint texture of the plant's surface. The grip is precise, not forceful. But claws are only part of the system. Ladybugs, like many insects, also have adhesive pads on their feet. These pads produce a thin fluid that helps create surface tension between the foot and the material it touches. The fluid is not sticky in the way glue is sticky. Instead, it increases friction at a microscopic level. When the foot presses gently against a surface, the adhesive pad spreads slightly, maximizing contact. Tiny forces between molecules help hold the insect in place. Scientists call this van der Waals force. It operates at very small scales but becomes significant for lightweight bodies like that of a ladybug. Imagine the beetle walking slowly along the underside of a leaf. Each step presses and releases. Press and release. The claws hook lightly. The adhesive pads make contact. The body remains stable. Because the ladybug is so light, gravity exerts less force on it than on larger animals. This allows the adhesive system to work efficiently without requiring strong suction or large surface area. Even on vertical surfaces, such as tree bark or a sunlit wall, the same system holds firm. The legs adjust their angle slightly. The body leans forward. The grip remains steady. The leaf may sway gently in the wind. The beetle adjusts its footing without panic. its nervous system responds quickly to shifts in balance. Muscles in the legs contract and relax in small, controlled motions. Surface tension also plays a role in damp environments. If a thin film of water coats a leaf, the adhesive pads can still function. In fact, the slight moisture can enhance contact, depending on the surface texture. You might imagine a morning garden. Dew beads along the edges of leaves. A ladybug moves carefully across the wet surface, its claws and pads working together. The curved shell reflects the soft light. Each step is quiet and deliberate. The underside of the body is flatter than the dome above. This creates a stable base while walking. The center of mass remains low relative to the contact points of the feet. That balance helps prevent tipping or rolling. The grip system does not leave visible marks. There are no scratches or indentations noticeable to the eye. The interaction happens at scales too small for us to see without magnification. If you were to magnify the tip of a ladybug's foot, you would see fine structures shaped to maximize contact. Each foot is an engineering solution refined over long stretches of evolutionary time. This ability to cling allows ladybugs to explore nearly every part of a plant. Upper surfaces, undersides, narrow stems, even the delicate edges of petals. The beetle moves across all of it without slipping. You can picture it again, hanging beneath a leaf, head lowered toward a cluster of aphids. The body does not strain. The legs do not tremble. The grip holds. Stability in small detail. The smooth wall in autumn. The bark of a tree in summer. The underside of a leaf in spring. All become accessible through the same quiet mechanism. Even surfaces that seem polished or vertical can support the small red dome. Because at its scale, what feels smooth to us is textured terrain. What feels flat to us is full of microscopic edges. And the ladybug, with its 6 carefully designed feet, walks calmly across that landscape. Even smooth surfaces hold. The leaf sways once more, but the beetle remains steady, balanced between claw and pad, held in place by forces too small for us to see. Beneath the curved red shell, beyond the folded wings and the quiet chemistry of defense, there is another system working steadily. It does not shine. It does not hum. It does not announce itself. Yet it guides every step, every turn, every pause on a leaf. The nervous system of a ladybug is small, but it is precise. Insects do not have a single large brain like mammals do. Instead, they have a series of connected nerve clusters called ganglia. At the front of the body, just behind the eyes, sits a central brain. This brain processes sensory information and coordinates movement. You can imagine it now, a tiny network of cells inside the head capsule, receiving signals from the eyes, antennae, and legs. The eyes themselves are compound eyes. Instead of one large lens, a compound eye is made up of many small units called ommatidia. Each ommatidium captures a portion of the visual field. Together, they form a mosaic-like image of the world. The resolution is not as sharp as human vision, but compound eyes are excellent at detecting motion. A sudden shift in light, a moving shadow overhead. These changes are registered quickly. You might picture the surface of the ladybug's eye under magnification. A curved dome covered in tiny hexagonal facets. each facet reflecting light slightly differently. This structure allows the beetle to monitor its surroundings while walking slowly across a stem. It does not need detailed shapes. It needs contrast and movement. In addition to vision, the antennae play an important role. Two slender structures extend forward from the head. They are covered in sensory receptors that detect chemical signals in the air. Aphids release subtle chemical cues when feeding. Plants under stress may emit volatile compounds. The antennae can detect these faint signals. As the ladybug moves along a leaf, its antennae sweep gently from side to side. The movement is small but constant. Information flows inward. Signals from the eyes and antennae travel along nerves to the brain. The brain processes this input and sends instructions to the legs. Turn left, move forward, pause. The nervous system also controls internal rhythms. Heartbeat in the dorsal vessel. Digestive contractions in the abdomen. Wing-beat coordination during flight. Although the system is simple compared to larger animals, it is efficient. It operates with minimal delay. You might imagine the beetle encountering a sudden shadow from above. Instantly, the nervous system signals the legs to tuck inward. The body presses closer to the leaf. Reflex bleeding may occur if the disturbance continues. These responses do not require thought in the human sense. They are patterns encoded through evolutionary time. Sensory input leads directly to motor output. Even walking requires coordination. Each of the 6 legs moves in alternating sequences. The pattern maintains balance while advancing. The brain and thoracic ganglia coordinate these movements automatically. The ladybug does not calculate each step. The pattern runs smoothly in the background. When flying, the nervous system must synchronize rapid wing beats with subtle adjustments in body angle. Visual feedback helps guide direction. Muscles contract in precise timing. You can picture the beetle lifting into the air, wings beating rapidly, antennae angled slightly forward. The eyes detect movement. The brain adjusts wing force minutely to maintain stability. Inside the small body, electrical signals travel along nerve fibers, bridging perception and motion. Though small, the nervous system allows the ladybug to navigate complex environments. It can climb vertical walls, cross uneven bark, locate food sources, and seek shelter when temperatures fall. The simplicity of the system does not limit its effectiveness. In fact, efficiency often comes from refinement rather than size. You might see the beetle now resting on a leaf. Its antennae extend outward. Its compound eyes reflect light. Beneath the shell, signals move quietly through delicate threads of nerve tissue. Awareness does not require complexity. The ladybug perceives the world in its own scale. Light and shadow, scent and vibration, texture beneath its feet. The garden around it feels vast to us. To the beetle, each leaf is terrain, each stem is a path, each shift in air is information. And within that small head, a compact network of cells interprets it all, guiding the red dome steadily forward across the green world. Time moves differently for a ladybug than it does for us. What feels like a long stretch of seasons to a human can contain an entire life within a small beetle. Most ladybugs live for about 1 year. Some may survive slightly longer in favorable conditions, especially if they successfully overwinter in sheltered spaces. But generally, their life unfolds within the span of a single cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. You can picture the beginning of that cycle now. Early spring, new leaves unfolding, aphid populations rising with fresh plant growth. A female ladybug searches carefully along stems for clusters of aphids. When she finds a suitable location, she lays small groups of eggs nearby. Each egg is oval and upright, pale yellow or orange in color. They are often placed on the underside of a leaf, protected from direct sunlight and wind. Within a few days, depending on temperature, the eggs hatch. Larvae emerge and begin feeding almost immediately. This stage lasts 2 to 3 weeks, during which the larvae molt several times, growing larger with each shedding of their outer layer. After the final larval stage, pupation begins. A week of transformation follows. The adult emerges, pale at first, then gradually developing the familiar red shell and black spots as the cuticle hardens. From egg to adult, the full process may take only 3 to 4 weeks in warm conditions. Because development can be so rapid, several generations of ladybugs may appear within a single growing season. In warmer climates, there may be 2, 3, or even more overlapping generations each year. You might imagine a summer field now. Adult ladybugs walking across leaves, larvae feeding nearby, pupae attached quietly beneath stems, eggs waiting to hatch. Multiple stages of life unfolding at once, layered across the same plants. As summer continues, reproduction remains active as long as food is abundant. Aphid populations support the cycle. When prey is plentiful, ladybug numbers increase. But as autumn approaches and daylight shortens, reproduction slows. Hormonal signals shift. The final generation of the year prepares not for egg-laying, but for survival through winter. Those adults seek shelter. They gather in crevices and protected spaces. Their metabolism slows during diapause. Time passes quietly while they remain mostly inactive. When spring warmth returns, the surviving adults re-emerge and begin feeding again. They mate. The cycle restarts. This rhythm is shaped by temperature and light. Insects rely heavily on environmental cues. They do not measure time with clocks. They respond to changes in day length and warmth. These signals guide their internal chemistry. You can picture the red dome resting on a leaf in late summer. The shell catches the last warm light of the season. Inside the body, reproductive systems slow as winter approaches. Energy shifts towards storage rather than growth. For a creature with such a brief lifespan, timing is everything. Laying eggs too late in autumn could mean the larvae face cold conditions without enough food. Entering diapause too early might reduce opportunities to reproduce. The system has been refined through generations. Individuals that align closely with seasonal patterns are more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Although the lifespan is short, the lineage is continuous. Each year's adults are replaced by their offspring. The red dome we see this summer may not be the same one we saw last year, even if it rests on the same leaf. Cycles within cycles. The plant grows. Aphids feed, ladybugs hunt, eggs hatch, larvae molt, pupae transform, adults gather, winter passes, spring returns, From our perspective, the garden may feel steady, but within it, small lives rise and fade quickly, replaced by others that look nearly identical. You might imagine the underside of a leaf again, a neat row of eggs attached gently to its surface, each one containing the beginning of another year-long story. Life unfolds in quiet timing, not measured in decades, but in weeks and seasons. And the small red dome that walks across the leaf carries within it both the memory of past generations and the beginning of those still to come. If you step back from a single leaf and look across an entire field, the movement of one ladybug might seem too small to matter. A red dot crossing green space, a body no larger than a fingernail. And yet, when many of these small hunters move across plants day after day, the balance of the field begins to shift. Ladybugs are part of a larger food web. They are predators, but they are also prey. They feed on aphids and other soft-bodied insects. In turn, they may be eaten by birds, spiders, or larger insects that can tolerate their chemical defenses. You can picture a tall stem now, aphids clustered along its surface, a ladybug feeding steadily. Somewhere above, a bird watches from a branch. Somewhere below, a spider waits in the shade. No single movement stands alone. In agricultural fields, ladybugs play an especially important role. Aphids can reproduce quickly, often giving birth to live young without mating under certain conditions. Their numbers can rise rapidly during warm months. Large infestations weaken crops by draining plant sap and spreading plant viruses. When ladybug populations are strong, aphid numbers often remain lower. This reduces the need for chemical pesticides. Farmers sometimes refer to ladybugs as biological control agents. Instead of relying entirely on synthetic sprays, the ecosystem itself contributes to pest management. You might imagine a field of crops stretching toward the horizon. Rows of green plants growing evenly, aphids present but not overwhelming. Among the leaves, dozens of small red domes move quietly, each one feeding, laying eggs, continuing its cycle. This balance is not perfect or permanent. Weather conditions, habitat changes, and human activity all influence population levels. But the presence of predators like ladybugs helps stabilize sudden increases in prey species. In natural ecosystems, similar patterns unfold. In forests and meadows, aphids feed on trees and grasses. Ladybugs reduce their numbers. Birds reduce ladybug numbers. The relationships form loops rather than straight lines. Energy flows upward through the food web. Plants capture sunlight. Aphids feed on plant sap. Ladybugs feed on aphids. Birds feed on insects. Each link connects to the next. You can imagine the small beetle walking across a leaf, unaware of its role in a larger system. It simply responds to scent, movement, and hunger. But its feeding contributes to the health of plants and the stability of entire habitats. Even in gardens, the presence of ladybugs often signals a functioning ecosystem. Where aphids gather, predators follow. Where predators thrive, plant stress may decrease. Because ladybugs are sensitive to certain pesticides, heavy chemical use can reduce their populations. When that happens, aphid outbreaks may become more severe, leading to further chemical application. The balance shifts. But when habitats include flowering plants, sheltering spaces, and minimal disturbance, ladybug populations can sustain themselves more easily. You might picture a mixed garden with diverse plants. Small flowers attract pollinators. Aphids appear on tender shoots. Ladybugs arrive. The system regulates itself gradually. The red dome may seem insignificant against the wide field, but in numbers, these small bodies shape outcomes. Balance through appetite. Each aphid consumed reduces pressure on the plant. Each egg laid near a colony increases the chance that the next generation will continue the cycle. No single ladybug controls a field, but together they influence patterns of growth and decline. The air moves across the tops of plants. Sunlight warms the leaves. Beneath that light, small exchanges take place continuously. The ladybug lowers its head to feed. A bird chooses another insect instead. A plant retains more of its sap. Systems steady themselves through countless small interactions. And across the field, the red shapes move quietly among the green, maintaining balance in ways that are easy to overlook. If you return your attention to the red shell resting on a green leaf, the contrast feels almost deliberate. Bright red against soft green. Black spots placed clearly across the surface. This color is not decoration. It is communication. In the natural world, bright colors often serve as warnings. Biologists call this aposematic coloration. The term refers to visible signals that tell predators something important before contact is made. In the case of ladybugs, the red and black pattern signals that the beetle may taste unpleasant. You can picture a bird encountering a ladybug for the first time. The movement catches its eye. The red shell stands out sharply among leaves. The bird pecks. The taste is bitter. Perhaps the experience is uncomfortable. The bird remembers. The next time it sees a similar red shape with black spots, it hesitates. Eventually, it avoids that pattern altogether. Color becomes memory. Memory becomes avoidance. This system works best when the signal is clear. The brighter and more consistent the coloration, the easier it is for predators to recognize and remember. That is why many ladybug species display bold contrast rather than camouflage. Unlike insects that rely on blending into bark or leaf litter, ladybugs are often visible. They do not hide their presence. Their strategy depends on being seen and then left alone. You might imagine the red dome once more, resting in full daylight. It does not attempt to mimic the leaf. It does not dull its color. Instead, it stands out. This visibility may seem risky at first glance, but when paired with chemical defense, it reduces repeated attacks. Predators learn quickly. A single unpleasant experience can shape future behavior. Over generations, individuals with clearer warning patterns were more likely to survive and reproduce. Gradually, red and black became common signals within this group of beetles. The exact shade of red can vary between species, and the number of spots may differ. Some species are orange, some have many spots, others have few. But the general message remains similar. Bright color paired with chemical defense. You can picture a green field scattered with small red shapes. To a predator's eye, those shapes carry meaning. They are not simply moving dots. They are warnings. Interestingly, other insects sometimes mimic ladybug coloration without having the same chemical defenses. This is known as Bayesian mimicry. By resembling a distasteful species, a harmless insect may gain protection through association. In these cases, the warning color becomes even more powerful. It influences not only the survival of ladybugs, but also the behavior of other species that adopt similar patterns. The red shell itself develops its pigment gradually after emergence from the pupal stage. At first, the newly emerged adult appears pale. Over hours, pigment deepens and darkens. The familiar bright coloration settles into place as the shell hardens. You might imagine that transformation again. A pale beetle resting on a leaf, slowly deepening in color as air moves across its surface. The warning signal forming in quiet stages. Once the color has developed, it remains stable. The shell reflects light. The black spots create strong contrast, seen to avoid being touched. This phrase captures the essence of aposematic signaling. The goal is not to fight. It is not to flee at great speed. It is to prevent conflict before it begins. The ladybug walks openly across leaves. It does not conceal itself in shadow. Its presence is declared in color. To us, that brightness feels cheerful, familiar, even gentle. But in ecological terms, it is language. Color becomes language. A visual code written across the surface of a small body. The green leaf holds it in place. The air moves softly around it. A bird watches from a branch but turns its attention elsewhere. And the red dome continues its slow path, protected not by invisibility but by the clarity of its signal. If you imagine a leaf once covered in small movements, aphids clustered along the stem, a ladybug walking slowly between them, it can be difficult to picture that same leaf empty. And yet, in some places and seasons, that quiet absence has become more common. Ladybugs are resilient in many ways. They have survived for millions of years. They endure winter through diapause. They adapt to shifting food supplies. But like many small organisms, they are sensitive to sudden environmental change. One of the most significant pressures comes from chemical pesticides. In agriculture and even in home gardens, pesticides are often used to control insect populations. These chemicals are designed to reduce pests quickly, but they are rarely selective at the smallest scale. While the goal may be to eliminate aphids or other crop-damaging insects, beneficial predators like ladybugs can be affected as well. You might imagine a field treated with a broad-spectrum insecticide. Aphids decline rapidly, but ladybugs feeding among them are exposed too. Some may die directly from contact. Others may ingest contaminated prey. Because ladybugs reproduce across multiple generations each year, populations can recover if conditions improve. But repeated chemical exposure can reduce numbers over time. The loss is not always dramatic or visible. There may simply be fewer red shapes moving across leaves than there once were. Habitat loss also plays a role. Ladybugs rely not only on crops but on diverse plant life. Flowering plants provide nectar and pollen, which supplement their diet when aphid numbers are low. Natural areas with shrubs, trees, and ground cover offer overwintering shelter. When landscapes become simplified, large stretches of monoculture crops without hedgerows or wild margins, the availability of shelter and alternate food sources decreases. You might picture a field bordered by thick vegetation, filled with flowering plants and varied textures. Now imagine that same field stripped to uniform rows, edges cleared, shelter removed. The change alters the small microhabitats ladybugs depend on. Urban environments present different challenges. While sun-facing walls can offer warmth in autumn, sealed buildings and reduced green spaces may limit safe overwintering areas. Climate change introduces further uncertainty. Rising temperatures can alter the timing of seasonal cues. If spring arrives earlier, aphids may appear sooner. Ladybugs must synchronize their life cycle with these shifts. If temperatures fluctuate unpredictably, winter diapause may be interrupted prematurely. A warm spell followed by sudden frost can be damaging. Changes in rainfall patterns also affect plant health and aphid populations. Because ladybugs are closely tied to prey availability, shifts in one population ripple outward to the other. You can imagine a garden in early spring where warmth arrives weeks ahead of schedule. Ladybugs emerge from shelter and begin feeding. But if a late frost follows, survival becomes uncertain. Population levels naturally fluctuate year to year. Some summers bring abundant ladybugs, others bring fewer. These variations are part of ecological rhythm. But when pressures accumulate, chemicals, habitat reduction, climate shifts, the fluctuations may become more extreme. There is also competition among species. As discussed earlier, introduced species such as the Asian lady beetle can influence native populations. Competition for food and shelter can lead to long-term changes in species composition. If you return again to the image of a single leaf, it becomes a small stage for many forces. Chemical traces invisible to the eye. Temperature patterns shaped by distant systems. Human decisions about land use and crop management. Small systems are delicate. Ladybugs themselves are robust in design, protected by shell, chemistry, and instinct. But the networks they inhabit depend on balance. Remove too many predators, and prey populations may surge. Remove prey, and predators decline. In some regions, conservation efforts focus on supporting beneficial insects. Planting diverse flowering species, reducing pesticide use, and preserving natural margins around fields can help maintain ladybug populations. You might picture a garden intentionally designed to support insect life. Wildflowers along the edges. Minimal chemical use. Sheltered spaces left undisturbed through winter. In such environments, the red domes continue to appear season after season. The absence of ladybugs does not make headlines. It reveals itself quietly. Fewer bright shells against green leaves. Fewer clusters in autumn. Balance requires care. Not dramatic intervention, but thoughtful management of landscapes. The leaf that once held movement can hold it again if conditions allow. The red dome resting in evening light is not guaranteed. It depends on food, shelter, timing, and the choices made across fields and gardens. And when those choices support complexity rather than simplicity, the small hunter returns, moving steadily across the green surface once more. Well before we understood their chemistry or their nervous systems, we noticed their color. A small red beetle landing on a sleeve. A bright dot on a child's fingertip. Across many cultures, ladybugs have been seen not as pests, but as signs. In parts of Europe, they were once called Our Lady's beetle, a name connected to religious symbolism. The red shell was associated with protection, and the black spots were sometimes linked to stories or virtues. Over time, the name softened into ladybird or ladybug, but the sense of gentle fortune remained. You can picture a child holding out a hand, waiting for the beetle to crawl across the skin. There is no fear in the gesture, only curiosity. In agricultural traditions, the arrival of ladybugs in fields was often welcomed. Farmers observed that where ladybugs gathered, aphid populations decreased. Healthy crops followed. The beetle became a quiet sign of protection for harvests. Some folk stories say that if a ladybug lands on you, it brings good luck. Others say that counting the spots on its back predicts how many months of good fortune lie ahead. Scientifically, the number of spots does not correspond to age or luck. It is determined by species and genetics. But the act of counting creates a moment of connection. A small pause in which a child studies the shell carefully, tracing each black circle against red. You might imagine the ladybug now resting on a fingertip. Its legs tickle slightly as it adjusts its footing. The curved shell reflects sunlight. The person holding it watches quietly, aware of the fragile movement. In some cultures, releasing a ladybug into the air is accompanied by a rhyme or wish. The beetle becomes a messenger, carrying hope skyward. Why this insect in particular? Part of the answer lies in appearance. The rounded shape feels soft and harmless. The colors are vivid, but not threatening. The beetle does not sting. It does not bite in a painful way. It walks slowly enough to be observed without alarm. Unlike many insects that trigger discomfort, the ladybug often inspires calm curiosity. Artists and designers have adopted the image widely. Children's books, toys, clothing patterns. The red dome with black spots appears again and again. It has become one of the most recognizable insects in the world. You can picture a painted wooden toy shaped like a ladybug, or a small illustration in a storybook. The form is simplified but unmistakable. This symbolic presence layers meaning onto biology. The beetle itself does not know it carries cultural weight. It continues to feed, reproduce, and gather for winter as it always has. But humans see more than function. We see pattern and color and assign emotion to them. In some traditions, ladybugs are associated with protection of crops and gardens. In others, they are symbols of love or renewal. Even the act of gently blowing on a ladybug to encourage it to fly carries a sense of shared participation in something delicate. You might imagine a summer afternoon, a child crouched in grass, a ladybug crawling across a blade. The moment feels small but memorable. The biological reality, predator of aphids, bearer of alkaloid defenses, remains unchanged. But human imagination adds another layer, meaning layered onto biology. The same red and black pattern that warns birds communicates something softer to us. Perhaps it is the contrast between bright color and harmless behavior that makes the image appealing. Perhaps it is the familiarity across generations. We notice what feels gentle. In a world filled with larger and louder creatures, the small red beetle stands out not through force, but through quiet presence. The leaf supports it. The fingertip supports it. The stories surrounding it continue to unfold. And somewhere in a garden at dusk, a ladybug rests on a leaf, unaware that its simple form has become a symbol carried far beyond the stem it walks upon. If you gather together everything we have seen, the shell, the wings, the chemistry, the color, the instincts, a pattern begins to form. Nothing about a ladybug exists in isolation. The curved red dome is not simply decoration, it is hardened protection. Beneath it, delicate wings fold in careful layers, waiting for the moment they are needed. You can picture the shell now, smooth and rounded. It shields the softer abdomen and thorax beneath. When threatened, the ladybug pulls its legs inward, lowering its body closer to the surface. The shell absorbs contact. Inside that compact space, the wings remain hidden until flight begins. They are thin and translucent, folded with precision. When the beetle prepares to lift into the air, the elytra, the hardened forewings, open slightly. The flight wings unfold outward and begin to beat rapidly. The entire transformation from walking to flying takes only a moment. You might imagine the beetle on a leaf edge, a shift in wind. The shell parts slightly. The wings extend. Air moves beneath them. The body rises gently away from the green surface. This ability to alternate between crawling and flight expands its world. It can leave a depleted plant and search for another. It can escape sudden disturbance. Then there is chemistry. If contact becomes unavoidable, reflex bleeding releases a small drop of bitter hemolymph. The warning color works alongside this chemical defense. Vision and taste form a paired message. Seen, touched, avoided next time. Color, too, fits into the architecture of survival. The red and black pattern is not random. It strengthens the signal. It allows predators to learn quickly. You might see the beetle resting in open light rather than hiding in shadow. Visibility becomes part of protection. Even the feet contribute. Tiny claws hook into microscopic textures. Adhesive pads press lightly against smooth surfaces. The body remains stable whether walking on bark, leaf, or wall. Movement depends on the nervous system, a compact network of ganglia coordinating legs, wings, and sensory input. Compound eyes detect motion. Antennae sense chemical cues. Signals travel quickly through fine nerve threads, guiding each step. Each system supports the others. The shell protects the nervous system. The nervous system guides the legs. The legs carry the body to food. The food fuels the chemistry that supports defense. The color advertises that defense. Nothing stands alone. You might imagine looking beneath the shell in cross-section. Muscles layered against the thorax. Digestive organs coiled within the abdomen. Hemolymph circulating gently through open spaces. All contained within a body smaller than a coin. Even seasonal behavior fits into this architecture. The ability to slow metabolism during diapause depends on stored energy and hormonal signaling. The gathering on warm autumn walls reflects sensitivity to temperature and light. Each adaptation aligns with the next. Over millions of years, small refinements accumulated. Slightly stronger shell, slightly more bitter chemistry, slightly clearer warning color, slightly better timing in reproduction. Those individuals that matched their environment more closely survived and passed on their traits. The result is not perfection, but balance. You might return once more to the image of a ladybug on a leaf. It appears simple, almost minimal. A red dome with black spots, 6 legs moving slowly. Yet inside that simplicity lies layered design. The architecture of survival does not require size. It requires coordination. Shell and wing, claw and pad, pigment and alkaloid, instinct and timing. Each element fits within the whole. When the beetle rests, the systems remain ready. When it feeds, digestion converts prey into energy. When it flies, muscles contract in rapid sequence. When it gathers in autumn, metabolism shifts toward conservation. Nothing about them is accidental. The red dome is the visible surface of countless quiet adjustments shaped by environment and time. And as evening light settles across the garden, the small beetle pauses on the leaf, carrying within its compact body an intricate arrangement of structures working together in steady balance. In the soft light of evening, the garden grows quieter. The air cools. The shadows lengthen across the leaves. And on one small stem, a red shape rests. The shell reflects the last warmth of the day. The legs remain still. The wings are folded neatly beneath their curved cover. Nothing dramatic is happening. And yet, beneath that small dome, systems continue their quiet work. Hemolymph moves gently through the body. The nervous system remains alert to subtle shifts in light and vibration. Stored energy waits for the next movement. Across the garden, other ladybugs cling beneath leaves, gather near sheltered bark, or settle into narrow crevices as the night approaches. The cycles we have followed, egg to larva, larva to pupa, pupa to adult, continue in different corners of the green world. Some are just beginning, some are feeding, some are waiting for spring. The red and black pattern that once warned predators now glows softly against the fading light. The same color that carries chemical meaning in the wild carries gentler meaning in human stories. A small hunter, a seasonal traveler, a symbol layered with biology. From the grip of its feet to the chemistry in its blood, from the architecture of its shell to the rhythm of its life measured in seasons. Nothing about this beetle is random. Each detail fits within a larger design shaped by time and environment. And still, when we see it, we notice something simple. A bright dot on green, a quiet presence on a leaf. As the evening deepens, the leaf sways once more. The beetle remains steady. You can let that image settle now. The curved red shell resting in calm air, the garden breathing slowly around it. Small systems continuing, unseen, cycles turning quietly. And in the fading light, the red shape becomes still, held gently against the green, as the day closes and the night begins.